with a C, Mabbutt, Mabbutt.
And I'm going to ask you, how long have you been doing this for?
I've been doing it for 16 years, and I just got reelected for another 4.
So what is it that, or I guess, when did you get the call on Sunday?
I got the call just a few minutes after noon that there were 4 homicides, but I didn't go to the scene because of law enforcement doing their investigation first, so I didn't actually go to the scene until about 5 or 5:30.
Can you walk us through, like, for our viewers, kind of the process between when police show up and then you guys getting the bodies and doing your examinations?
Sure. Well, law enforcement goes through and looks for any evidence, takes videos and pictures of everything in there, and they'll start talking with people. So I don't really need to be there for that. They can't move the bodies. I mean, the bodies have to stay as they were until the coroner gets there. So that's what my job is.
Welcome back to my mental health and crime channel. My name is Huda London. This is for educational purpose only. This is the case of the Idaho quadruples. May the 4 victims rest in peace, condolence to their families, and may the correct justice be served. I hope everyone's having a pleasant day. I find this to be very interesting. DM, BF, and Hunter Johnson called 911 at 11:58 noon, almost noon. The coroner gets the call, she said, after 12. So she got the call quickly, but she wasn't allowed to come to the scene, the crime scene, until 5 to 5:30. That's important. This is for educational purpose only. So that would say from 12 to 5:30. Almost 5.5 hours, the coroner was not allowed to enter. So I assume it was Moscow police, the detectives, the surviving roommates, the people who gathered around the scene in the beginning. So you can imagine, there's a lot going on there. When a crime scene like this happens, the place has to be shut down, sealed down. Besides the detectives who are working on the case and the forensic team, nobody should be entering or leaving without permission. And on top of that, there are lesser people that go into the crime scene. It's definitely better to solve the case, because we saw they did not have the forensic kit on. That was really, honestly, unprofessional. Really unprofessional. It was winter. Some of them were sneezing. Some of them were rubbing their nose with their jacket. They weren't changing their mask and the forensic gear. When they come out for a while, they're writing down notes. We could see everything clearly. And this is not one person who's unlived. We're talking about a quadruple here. The coroner wasn't supposed to talk. That was the problem. This was before the case was ever on gag order. So whatever she said, that was the last she said. They never let her speak again. They never let her have another interview. I do understand this is a high-profile case, but thank God that she gave us a bit of information. I remember she did 2 interviews. In one interview, she said that the timeline, like basically the coroner pronounced them unalived, was after 2 a.m. But she said we need to wait for the toxicological report, and that could take 6 weeks. I don't know if it's true. I heard it came back negative, which I doubt is true. The coroner herself said it's not relevant. Can you imagine that? Where have you ever heard a coroner saying that toxicological reports are not important? Forget about that. When I clearly saw what was going on the grab truck, Maddie looked like she was more than intoxicated. Someone could have actually easily put a roof in her drink. At least I saw number 9 putting something in her drink. No matter what, even Kylie Rodney, all the cases that we've been through, they've taken a toxicological report. What are these people? Hiding. If they believe the toxicological reports are not important, then what case are you all investigating, honestly? Because we're not talking about 1 toxicological report, we're talking about 4. What if they were overdosed? We haven't seen the bodies, nobody's seen the bodies. I know we're not entitled to see the bodies, and that's not what I wish for. But what I'm trying to say is everything, whether it was rumors, speculation, or facts, was shut down immediately. And that created further speculation only. But the coroner did not enter 1122 Kings Road until 5 to 5:30 in the evening. The FBI did not enter this case. They were not invited until the 17th of November, 5 days later. 5 days later. So what was Moscow Police Department up to? Why were they hesitating to call in the FBI? If the FBI was missing the first 5 important days, I'm sure they had to get the update from Moscow Police. Question is, how much did they update them? Because this case looks like it's heading in a very questionable, concerning direction.
Coroner gets there, so that's what my job is. Well, law enforcement goes through and looks for any evidence, takes videos and pictures of everything in there, and they'll start talking with people. So I don't really need to be there for that. They can't move the bodies. I mean, the bodies have to stay as they were until the coroner gets there. So that's what my job is.
So the protocols are clearly that the coroner cannot move the bodies until, law enforcement and the people on the scene, that we say the medical team, paramedics and all that, are not allowed to touch the bodies until the coroner appears. And she was allowed to come in between 5 to 5:30 in the evening. So the police had the crime scene for themselves for at least a good 5 to 5.5 hours. And then the surviving roommates had the crime scene for themselves from God knows when. Maybe from 9 or 1:45 the night before on the 13th. We don't know where BF or DM were. We were told that they both came home at 1:45, at 1 o'clock. We were told that the 4 surviving roommates came home at 1:45. But still, yet again, the police were asking the public to help them with Xana and Eaton, a timeline. Does that make sense? They did not know. The police did not know Xana and E's timeline. And I don't believe the 4 victims were taken out at the same time. May they rest in peace. They were deleted. They were raised different timings. When the crowd was yelling Xana, Xana, that was around 2:15, 2:20. That is when E and Xana's friend, E's friend, said that he texted him. No, E texted him, and E's mother told the FBI. And that was around 2:10 to 2:15. E texted him and said, "I'm at the Sigma Chi, I'm heading home." So the question is, did they ever make it home? So the bodies were not allowed to be touched. So there we have our answer clearly. Everyone was wondering, although I don't really find that to be so important because these are 4 young victims. Many people want to know when the 4 victims were moved out of the house. And I think the answer is here. The coroner said, the police or nobody's allowed to move the bodies until I come. So she came around 5:30. I believe the bodies must have been removed after 10 at night, when it was quiet in the area, so that the media doesn't see that. Because I don't think the bodies were moved earlier than that. It's clear to see that from the corner.
And looks for any evidence, takes videos and pictures of everything in there, and they'll start talking with people. So I don't really need to be there for that. They can't move the bodies. I mean, the bodies have to stay as they were until the coroner gets there. So that's what my job is, to look at the bodies.
As a coroner, do you guys do the autopsies and all that?
No, we some do if they're an actual medical examiner, but we have forensic pathologists and we contract with Spokane to do that.
So in your experience, what is it that you saw when you showed up?
Well, there was a lot of blood. It was a very sad scene with 4 murdered college students.
You're ruling all 4 deaths homicides?
Yes.
Okay. And can you give us a manner of death? Yeah.
I believe that the press release was that they were from a sharp object. So
stabbings.
Yeah, I will know more after the autopsies tomorrow.
And do you believe these could be like a murder-suicide or something?
No, they're 4 homicides.
4 homicides. Okay. And when it comes to doing the investigation post-autopsy, that falls on you, correct?
Yes. It's my job to determine the manner and mechanism of death.
And then I know with toxicology results, there can often be, at least in Washington, a delay. So do you have any idea how long it could take, if those were relevant, to get any type of results back on that?
Well, the toxicology reports, right, they usually take 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes longer. But they might, I don't think they're going to be relevant in the actual manner or cause of death.
And do we know?
Did you actually hear what the coroner said? She doesn't believe that the toxicological reports are relevant in this case. So from the very beginning of this case, they already had a plan to ignore important statements, I believe, because clearly his friend and his mother were ignored when he showed the last text that Eaton texted him and said that he was on his way home, and that was between 2:10 to 2:15. So they were ignoring important statements. They were ignoring toxicological reports because automatically they said it wasn't important. So if it's not relevant for them, that is what is, I guess, is important for them in Idaho, Moscow. Aren't they following any protocols? Don't they understand that all this is important for the court? I'm sure they have to present all this, but the fact that a coroner is supposed to be professional is saying that toxicological reports are not relevant just sounds so unprofessional. Without criticizing anyone. Honestly, I've never heard that before. Now I understand why Chief Fry and the police didn't want her to talk. The whole force, the whole Idaho Moscow police should have called. The FBI immediately should have called Spokane, the main doctor, coroner, / whatever he is, to come on the scene because this is like a high profile case. These are 4 victims. So whether he's playing golf or whether he's sleeping, he should have been the one to be sent. Because I don't trust a coroner who says she doesn't believe that toxicologicals are not relevant. Just my opinion.
Or cause of death.
And do we know how long between the time of death and when police found them, approximately?
No, I don't know for sure.
Do we have like any, like, could it have been hours? Could it have been a day? Was it maybe close? Like, is there any sort of like time frame there?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, gotcha.
And you said the scene was really difficult. I mean, is this something you've had to deal with before in Moscow?
Since I've been coroner, there have been at least 2 other multiple homicide scenes that I've been involved in. So.
Would you say this is probably the most gruesome?
It's hard to just single it out. It's the only one I've been to where there have been 4 people at one scene. There have been the other ones have had multiple scenes.
And was anybody else injured, like any non-deceased people?
Not that I'm aware of, but I wouldn't necessarily be notified either.
Okay. I didn't know if that was like because the injuries could be similar, but not to you.
Oh, right.
Were the deceased all in close proximity to each other, or were they in different rooms?
I don't know that I can discuss that.
That was interesting. So were all the victims found around each other, near each other? And she said, I don't know if I can discuss that. But in the beginning, she said she's had other crime scenes, but this is the first one that the victims... Sorry, let me go back to this. This is interesting. Very interesting.
Would you say this is probably the most gruesome?
It's hard to just single it out. It's the only one I've been to where there have been 4 people at one scene. There have been the other ones have had multiple scenes.
And was anybody else injured, like any non-deceased people?
Not that I'm aware of, but I wouldn't necessarily be notified either.
Okay. I didn't know if that was like because the injuries could be similar, but not to you.
Oh, right.
Were the deceased all in close proximity to each other, or were they in different rooms?
I I don't know that I can discuss that.
So does that mean the 4 victims were found near each other? Close approximately to each other? Is that what she's trying to say? Because in the beginning she said that the other crime scenes are a bit different because she's used to crime scenes, but there are multiple crime scenes. But this one is one crime scene. Does she mean in the same house? Or were they all... Sorry, or were they all found in the same room? This is interesting.
Would you say this is probably the most gruesome?
Oh, it's hard to just single it out. It's the only one I've been to where there have been 4 people at one scene. There have been the other ones have had multiple scenes.
And was anybody else injured, like any non-deceased people?
Not that I'm aware of, but I wouldn't necessarily be notified either.
Okay. I didn't know if that was like because the injuries could be similar, it might matter to you.
Oh, right.
Were the deceased all in close proximity to each other, or were they in different rooms?
I don't know that I can discuss that.
That was gonna be my next question too, so.
Interesting question.
Will we be able to get a copy of your report once it's concluded? I'm sure it'll be.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, just call.
I don't believe she ever gave the copy to the media because Chief Fry put a gag order on everything. So what I understood out of this is she said that she's been to multiple crime scenes. They were horrific or terrible too. May they all rest in peace. But she said the other crime scenes there were many victims, but multiple crime scenes. But she's never been to a crime scene like the Idaho Moscow because were the victims found all together? Were they gagged? Were they tied up? Were they near each other? Where were they actually found? Guys, let me know what you think about this interview. But to summarize it, the coroner says the toxicological reports are not important. The most unprofessional thing I've heard from a coroner. And she said the police, or whoever basically, who are in the crime scene, cannot move the bodies until the coroner, until Madam Ma'am Cathy decides that she's allowed to enter the crime scene. She does her forensic, and then the bodies were moved. So I assume the bodies were moved that night, but I'm sure it was after midnight to make sure that nobody's watching. That is my opinion. Let me know what you all think.